Welcome everyone to the ESSEC Global MBA webinar. And today we're going to be discussing if you're ready to power up your career with the ESSEC Global MBA. I am going to go through some few house rules right now. You are automatically on mute. We cannot hear anything you're saying. If you have any questions, please send them on the chat box. And if you have any personal or specific questions that you may like to ask, please send your questions to the email address that is shown on the screen. In addition to that, the event will be recorded. However, you're only going to get the recording within 24 hours. So we're going to meet the panelists. I'm one of the panelists. We are also going to talk about the ESSEC Global MBA itself. We're going to hear from the alumni. And we're going to elaborate more on the applications and admissions process. And lastly, we'll go through the lovely Q&A session and we will share some more information on how you can get in touch with us. The panelists, my name is Valerie Mokhan. I am an alumni of the Global MBA program. I graduated 2 years ago. I did the strategy and digital leadership track, and I now work for ESSEC as a recruitment manager. With me are Carissa and Alejandro, and before I pass it over to them, I just want to let everyone know that when I did the MBA, I was a mom of two. I still am a mom of two. A mom of two boys. They were 4 years old and 2 years old at the time. So if I could do it, I think anyone else could do it. Over to you, Carissa.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Carissa Daes. I took the MBA 2 years ago as well, so in the same actually cohort as Valerie. And I took the luxury brand management track. A fun fact about me is I came to the MBA not knowing any French at all and managed to still find a job in France afterwards. So I now work as an international project manager at Carita, which is one of the brands of the L'Oreal Luxe division at L'Oreal. And I now pass it to Alejandro.
Thank you, Carissa. So my name is Alejandro. I did the 2020 MBA in the strategy and management track back then. So yes, I'm a COVID batch alumni. And well, fun fact about me is that right now I'm working at a French company called PrestaShop. Very similar to Carissa. I didn't speak French in that time, but still I was able to stay here in France after MBA for work. And a fun fact about my MBA experience is that I was, I think, the second or the youngest one in the batch. So that made my decision about the MBA a tough one, because I was really in between choosing the Grande École program or the Master in Management and the MBA. So I was too old for the previous one, but also too young for the MBA. But at the end, I took the right decision, which was choosing the Global MBA.
Perfect. Thank you, Alejandro and Carissa. It's always so interesting to hear from other alumni and how they got to be where they are right now. Ali, can you just repeat the name of your company, the company you're working for?
It's a company called PrestaShop. We're doing e-commerce for the tech industry.
Okay, all right. But you're going to elaborate on that a bit later and what it is that you do, right?
Sure.
Okay, perfectly. Moving on to ESSEC, the school itself. So ESSEC is an internationally ranked school. We are ranked by the Financial Times, and according to that ranking, we're number 6 in executive education throughout the world. In Europe, we're the 9th best European business school, and that is the 2022 rankings, according to the Financial Times. The school itself has got 4 campuses. There are 2 campuses in France, one in Cergy and one in La Défense, which is in Paris. There's also a campus in Singapore, that's our Asian campus, and our African campus is in Rabat in Morocco. There is one additional augmented digital campus for the people that are doing digital courses. About the MBA program itself, so I'm just going to elaborate a bit more on it. The program is triple accredited. I know that is very important. It is triple accredited. It is a 1-year program. It runs from September to September of every year. And yes, we are still accepting students to study this year in September. Registrations, applications will close in I beg your pardon, in June. So as I mentioned, the program is 12 months from September to September. There are 2 specializations. There's the luxury brand management specialization, which Carissa did. There's the strategy and digital leadership specialization, which Alejandro and I did. And if you do the strategy and digital leadership specialization, you do get an opportunity to do part of your studies, some of your studies in the Singapore campus. That doesn't necessarily apply for the luxury brand management specialization. So how the course is structured is that it's divided into 2. For the first 8 months, you're doing a lot of academic study, you're doing your group assignments, your individual assignments, but at the same time, there's a lot happening at the background. This is a time when you're going to meet with the career services people. So the career services people are going to hold your hand to help you fine tune your CV to make sure that it speaks to the job which you want to have after the MBA. A lot of people want to change careers, they want to change geographies, they want to change industries, and the career services team will be there to ensure that your CV speaks to that job which you want to have, and to ensure that you put yourself out there to the right people during the MBA, because we have a lot of networking events within Paris and in other countries where we invite industry leaders, people from other industries, for the students to meet and speak to. And if you know what you're going to do after the MBA, this is the right time to connect, make the right connections, and maybe find a job after the MBA. Talking about meeting people, you're also going to go to the UK, to the Netherlands, to Luxembourg, as well as to Italy. The strategy and digital leadership track goes to the UK, to the Netherlands and Luxembourg. The luxury brand management track goes to the UK, the Netherlands, as well as Italy. So all of this happens within the first 8 months of the program. And then in the last 4 months of the program, this is where you do your internship or your Capstone consulting mission. An internship, you know, a Capstone consulting mission is like an internship, but it is done with a partner organization of ESSEC, and it is in line with whatever you want to do. So for example, I did my Capstone consulting mission with BNP Paribas in communications because I wanted to move to communications. And then before you know it, your MBA is over, and then you graduate, and then you start working. So moving on, the ESSEC Global MBA is very big on diversity, very big on inclusion, but at the same time, we're very big on ensuring that students get individualized attention. Our classes are not too big. We try and ensure that our classes are never bigger than 50 to ensure that everyone can get that individualized attention, can get access to the services they require. They can network effectively with their classmates and those around them. And we think that keeping the classes below 50 allows the students to achieve that. 98% of our students are international, meaning 98% are from outside of France. The average age of the program is 30, and there's average work experience is 6 years. And in our current cohort, there are 16 nationalities, of which more than 60% of which are women. Now, we're just going to dive into the alumni, and we're just going to hear more about the experiences of the program, what worked for them, how did they get into the program, what are they doing now, what didn't work for them, any words of advice that they might have for us. Carissa, can you just jump in and tell us about your experience during the program and what it is that you're doing now?
Sure. So I guess it starts with why I decided to take the MBA. And so my background is I'm from the Philippines. Prior to the MBA, I was working already in the cosmetics industry. I worked for the company Estee Lauder, the Estee Lauder companies. But I worked in the market, and the great thing about working for like a really international company was that I was able to see what my counterparts in other countries were doing. So it gave me like a sort of global exposure to how big the industry was outside of my own country. And then so I started to think, how could I have like a more international experience? And I started doing some research, and I realized that a lot of like the executives at the company I worked for, they had done MBAs, and a lot of them had actually done the ESSEC MBA. So then I started looking into the ESSEC Global MBA, and I realized that they had a specialty in luxury brand management and strong partnerships with various players in the luxury industry and in the cosmetics industry, which really interested me. So I applied for the MBA. I applied in the middle of the pandemic, so it was actually during lockdown. that I applied because I was the batch after Alejandro, and it was a very interesting experience. So we started in person in September of 2020, and then we went into lockdown. I believe France went into lockdown in October of 2020 again. So a portion of the experience moved online, and then when the world opened up again in like early 2021, we went back into in-person class. So it was I had a mix of both online class and in-person class. Thankfully, the field trips got moved, so we were still able to do that. And that was actually one of my fondest memories. The Italian field trip was a really great mix of soaking in the culture, as well as the learning about the luxury industry and meeting CEOs, meeting companies, seeing the heritage of all these luxury brands, going to the maisons. That was really amazing. The luxury brand management track is, I would say it's a really great, if you're looking to move into the luxury industry, it's a really great foundation because you get a really great holistic view of the different sectors of luxury, from watches and jewelry, wines and spirits, fashion, fragrance and cosmetics. And then for someone like me who has already been in part of the industry but was only in one sector, it was also still great to get like an understanding of all the other parts. In terms of how the MBA helped me achieve my career goals, it was enormously helpful. So I now work for the L'Oreal Luxe division, and I definitely attribute that to the fact that I took the MBA. It gave me enormous exposure. I took the luxury and managing of fragrances and cosmetics elective, which then gave me the opportunity to work on a case with L'Oreal Luxe. After which we had like the Digital Week competition, where once again I got to work on a project for Kiehl's, the brand. So again, additional exposure through the MBA. And finally, I did my capstone project for Biotherm, which is another L'Oreal Luxe brand, all because of partnerships that ESSEC has with various companies, and in this case with L'Oreal. And that gave me enough exposure to L'Oreal and to people at L'Oreal that I was able to get an interview afterwards and then secure a job. So it was a really great overall experience for me.
Okay. And besides the field trips, would you say the field trips actually were the highlight of your time at ESSEC, or do you have any other highlights you'd like to share?
Oh, the field trips were a definite highlight. And then like for me as well, some of the classes, I really enjoyed a good number of the electives for the luxury brand management electives. I'm not sure right now if it's still the same electives because I know they change every year or so. But I really enjoyed, we had electives on copyright and which is really important in terms of like design and luxury. We had a elective on managing art and culture, which for me was interesting because it combined like both the artistic side and the beauty of luxury, but also the business side. So it's things like how to make museums profitable, how to make an opera profitable, how to judge if like uh, you're running a production of a play or a ballet, or what would make it feasible. So for me, it was really interesting, really interesting.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion out there that, luxury brand management is just, it's a bit fluffier. There's not a lot of numbers, there's not a lot of management, but you did quite a lot of analytical based courses as well. There's accounting, there's statistics that you did. And in your luxury courses as well, like you say, you were learning how to see if the activities you're doing were profitable, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure you're using some of those skills in your daily work. Do you right now?
Yeah, for sure. So in my daily work, yes, because now I work as a campaign and content manager. So that's still like, running the budgets of big campaigns for the brands. It also is combining like a lot of trend forecasting and mood forecasting. So still looking, I spend a lot of time making mood boards as well. And definitely, what I really liked about the MBA was that it was a good mix of both sides. Like I would, where you had, like you say, the really like hard sciences, accounting, statistics, strategy. But you also like, for at least the luxury brand management, you also mix it up with things like watches and jewelry classes, the wines and spirits class. We had trips to like ateliers to see the savoir-faire. So like we went to the Chanel atelier, where we learned about like jewelry and the beading and all the uh, handicraft that goes into it. We went to see like Van Cleef and Arpels, how they make the jewelry pieces. it was really interesting. Like for me, was I think one of also the really great things about the MBA, at least for the luxury brand management track, is that if you live in Paris, which is like the center of luxury, what you learn in class, you see out on the street. Like, you know, it's like you spend Monday to Friday in the classroom learning about it. And then on the weekend, you go out, you walk the streets, you go to a shop and you see what you're learning like in front of you. So it's a great like fusion of both, you know, it's not just theoretical.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that always helps because
Mm,
you can learn and learn about things, but
mhm,
if you can't actually picture it, it
mhm.
doesn't help much. So you did say you did the capstone, right? You didn't do the
Yes.
internship at the end of the
Yes.
academic. Okay,
Yeah.
and you did your capstone with L'Oreal, right? And
Yes.
now, okay, so it's been a great luxury journey for you. You in the
For
luxury
sure.
industry, you're just happy. What advice would you give to aspiring candidates?
Aspiring candidates. I think, okay, one of the best pieces of advice that someone had given me about the MBA when I was unsure about whether to pursue it or not. So I talked to some alumni as well, and one of them said, the MBA is a boat, but it's your job to row. You know, it's like it will provide you all these opportunities, but it's up to you to make the most of them. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
it's like a vessel, but it's up to you to really take it and run with it and make the most out of it. And for me, that was a really, really helpful advice. Where, you know, when I was starting to look for jobs, when I was trying to like build my network, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, that it, it's a framework, but it's also like there's a lot of freedom there for you to make it what you want.
Okay, so in a way, it's what you make it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
I
get
think,
the resources and it's how you use the resources that you
yeah,
have.
for sure.
Okay, and I don't know if you mentioned, I don't think you mentioned, can you
Hmm.
just remind the people where you're from, which country you're from,
Oh, yes.
the countries you've also lived in, just so they can get a small sneak peek into your life?
Okay, sure.
Yes.
So I'm from the Philippines. It's a country in Southeast Asia. I now live in France, and in between, I have also lived for a short amount of time in Spain. Um, that's about it, pretty much. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Carissa.
with pleasure.
Alejandro, it's your turn to shine now. Would you like to share your experiences about the program and what it is that you're doing now and how the program made you what you are today?
Sure, I'll be happy to share some things about my experience. Well, right now, what I'm doing is basically I'm doing sales and account management for this e-commerce company called PrestaShop. So basically, PrestaShop is a solution to build your online store. And how the MBA helped me or is helping me in my professional career. I think first it's important to understand where I'm coming from. So I'll just jump into that. Back in Mexico, where I am from, I had a bachelor in industrial engineering, and my 4-year experience was in manufacturing related jobs. So as a production engineer, manufacturing engineer, which was a there were 4 years of very interesting experience managing large teams of 80 plus workers, or also managing budgets to achieve production goals. But deep down in myself, I knew that I really wanted to pursue a career in the commercial side of companies. And at that point, I was 26, and I thought myself, like, you can either keep going in this road, and you're gonna keep developing your professional career in something that is valuable, but at the same time, it's a good time also to make the change and start building up on what you really want to do. So I decided that 26, it was for me, it was a time to pursue the MBA. And the reason why an MBA was gonna help me achieve those goals was because it was gonna give me business knowledge, but also it was gonna allow me to get exposure to a network of an international network, which at the same time, I still believe is one of the greatest assets an MBA can give you, especially the ESSEC one. So why did I choose the ESSEC Global MBA specifically? I would have to say there were different factors, but the main ones being the fact that ESSEC is a very international school. So I knew that if I went to ESSEC, I would be around so many different profiles, so many different cultures, and that would allow me to get a sense of what's the like a different ways of thinking. And I believe being yourself in a different situation, or at least out of your comfort zone, is one of the things that push you to new boundaries and develop yourself into a more rich career, or at least mindset, which is something the MBA helped me a lot. From having just a technical experience back in Mexico, I knew that I was gonna force myself to learn business terminology, also get myself more involved into international networking, and that's exactly what ESSEC helped me to accomplish during my year there, either by networking events or just by providing a mentor that was a huge help back then. So the career services team assigned me a mentor who was providing me a lot of feedback and a lot of knowledge that she had, and that even today I'm lucky to have her as not only as a mentor but as a friend. So that's one of the things that I really appreciate from the program. Like you said at the beginning, career services really take your hand and help you to navigate the international experience. And how can I describe the track in my own words? Well, it was very challenging to keep up with these talented people. Like you have all kind of profiles, all kind of people with 10 plus years of work experience, and also people who had less experience, but they were very capable. So being able to have conversations with them in class, interacting on a daily basis, really push you to like level up. So you have to make your research, of course, you want to have relevant conversations all the time, and in order to have these conversations, you need to prepare yourself. So I would describe my track as a very competitive one, in a good way. So we were always most of my colleagues were doing competitions like business cases, and I would say they were really supportive as well. So we were, like you said, a very small cohort, and that's one of the things that really inspired me to go to ESSEC as well. I was always used to small cohorts back in Mexico in my previous schools, so having this 40-something student class was also a big factor to decide ESSEC, to choose ESSEC. And how did the GMBA help me achieve my goals? Well, first of all, I would say that changing geography in my case was really a challenge, because I wanted to pursue something in a country where I didn't speak the language. But the GMBA did help me to, first of all, get the knowledge about the business side, and in many ways helped me to improve my soft skills, not only to communicate better, but also to be able to negotiate better, to be able to make my to develop my network as well. So it was something that I was not used to it at all. So I'm come from a mid-sized city in Mexico where everybody know each other just because you went to the same school all your life, and that's pretty much how networking works there. But having to step up and like meet people, or meet the people who you believe is going to help you to develop your career, or just in a personal way, it was very important. So I thank ESSEC for giving me this opportunity to develop my international network, and of course by providing me the technical knowledge and exposing me to different cultures and profiles truly set everything apart. So yeah, I would, if I can inspire other people to pursue an MBA and embrace opportunities for growth, yeah, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay, that is interesting. Thank you very much, Ali. And I have a question for you, because you're from an engineering background and now you're not in engineering at all. How was that journey for you, like stepping away from a technical type of field and moving into business? I know analytically you were strong, but everything else, what advice would you would you give to someone in similar shoes to you?
Sure. I would say there are always transferable skills. This is something that we talk a lot during the career services workshops. So even though you have a very different scope from a technical job to a commercial job, there are always skills that are going to be transferable. So in my case, I try to leverage those skills that I developed during my time in engineering that I knew could bring value to a commercial position. So for instance, if I had managed projects or budgets, I know that commercial positions also require you to develop or to create a business from creating a pipeline or creating opportunities through prospecting. So having this way of thinking, like how can I bring X to Y kind of mindset, that's something that either you're an engineer or a commercial salesperson, you can bring value through it. Also by having a negotiation background, by having to deal with suppliers or even union laborers, you have to be constantly negotiating in the technical world as well. So it's obvious that commercial positions require negotiating skill. So that was also something that helped me a lot, like leveraging my already built skills rather than starting from scratch. I would say that the school really helped me to find out that I could use these skills to my next position.
Okay, it's quite clear. And you mentioned something about mentoring, and Carissa, I saw you nodding vigorously. Can you guys just expand on that, the importance of relying on mentors, the importance of, you know, learning from people who've already done it before? Because I think it helps quite a lot. Carissa, do you just want to step in?
Yeah, sure. So I wholeheartedly agree with Alejandro on this one, that ESSEC, as part of the program, they team you up with a mentor. And my mentor gave me invaluable advice. She was also an alumna of the program. So she had taken the luxury brand management track several years before me. She then ended up being also working in L'Oreal in a higher position. And so she was instrumental in helping me, just guiding me through um, the recruitment process, just guiding me through, even before that, even before like I was in recruitment, like when I was still at the program, just what like preparing me for like giving me tips and advice on how to like find a job in France, giving me like introducing me to people who she thought might help me and helping me expand my network. And then when even like when it came time to like helping me like figure out like which roles to choose, which jobs to apply for, how to negotiate. It was really I'm so grateful for the experience and for ESSEC for like connecting the two of us, because she's been like a real mentor, like even beyond the program.
That's a great
Yeah.
story to share.
Yeah.
And Ali, you've had a similar experience, of course. And it just so I know, are you guys open to potential candidates reaching out to you in the future and asking you questions about your journey, or asking for clarity of any sort? Are you open?
Sure. I think choosing an MBA is not an easy task. You need a lot of inputs to make the best decision. And if I can help somebody to take that decision, I'll be happy to do so. I think it's one of the things that I really enjoy, keeping my agenda open to anybody that had a similar vision with me. And yeah, always happy to do.
Same. Talking to the alumni before I decided to come to ESSEC, talking to the alumni was one of the key ways that helped me really give clarity to my decision to join the program. And I'd be happy to do what was done for me and pass it on.
Thank you, guys. That's very kind of you. And before we move on, Alejandro, can you share with us your absolute best experience? Like, what was the best part of the MBA journey for you?
Yeah, sure. To be honest, it's hard to pick a single one because, like I said, the day-to-day was already very gratifying. But I would say the business trip to Amsterdam gave us the opportunity to meet a lot of professionals in very big companies, as Heineken, Booking.com, Uber. So we were really seeing from firsthand, like, what are ESSEC professionals doing now in their careers. It was very inspiring. It gave us opportunity also to connect with these people who, some of them, I even today I keep contact with them. So I would say the trip was very, very good.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys. And to everybody who's watching, please keep on sending your questions to the chat box. I've been seeing quite a lot of questions coming through, and feel free to keep on asking some more. Okay. Thank you for that, Alejandro and Ana Carissa. Moving on. So how do you apply to the program? Now you know, you've heard from Alejandro, you've heard from Carissa, you've heard about the program itself, you've heard about ESSEC the school. How do you actually apply to the program? Well, before I start telling you more about that, we just have to discuss the requirements. You need to have a 4-year bachelor's degree. This is not to say that people with 3-year bachelor's degrees will not be considered. There's a process, there's an extra process that you would have to do if you have a 3-year bachelor's degree. But the minimum requirement for you not to do this extra process is a 4-year bachelor's degree. You need to have some international experience. And the international experience doesn't necessarily mean that you must have lived internationally. Even when you have managed international projects, internationally based projects, that also counts as international experience. You need to be at least 25 years of age. So that is self-explanatory. And you need to have at least 3 years of professional experience. So when we talk about 3 years of professional experience, we're not really counting the internship experience as well as graduate programs. So 3 years of experience in a set role. It doesn't have to be in the same company as well. And you need to have a competitive GMAT, GRE, or TAJMAJ score. Now, I cannot stress this enough. We don't just look at the GMAT or the GRE or the TAJMAJ. We look at you as a whole. As a person, we look at what you have done before, your courses, what you studied before, what you're doing now, the type of job that you did, what it is that you want to do later. So it's not just about the GMAT or the GRE or the TAJMAJ. It's quite important for you to have a good score to show your dedication and your abilities, but don't forget the other aspects of your application as well. And of course, you need to have an advanced English level because the course is taught in English entirely. This is why Alejandro, Carissa, and I came to France not being able to speak any English. It's because the course is not being able to speak any French, I beg your pardon, because the course is being taught in English. So if you meet all of these requirements, please apply. The next deadline is in May, on the 22nd of May. And then the last deadline of application this year is on the 19th of June. If you remember, I mentioned that the course starts in September. So we are closing applications on the 19th of June. And we are currently running a summer offer for the people who are going to apply in May and June. People who are going to apply and register before a set period, you get 2,500 off your course fees. The fees themselves are 49,500. That's the tuition fees for the year. And this tuition fees also includes the study trips that you're going to embark on. Remember, I said for strategy and digital, you go to the UK, to the Netherlands, and to Luxembourg. For luxury, I said you go to Italy, Netherlands, and the UK. So this 49,500 includes those trips as well. There's also an application fee of 130 that obviously you will pay online. I have to mention as well that the application is online. Everything is done online. So how it goes is that you would get in touch with a recruitment manager, somebody like myself. I recruit for Africa and Europe. For those watching who are based in India or in Asia, you've got your recruitment managers there that you'll be in touch with. And you'll be in touch with us and we will discuss your profile. We will discuss what it is that you want to achieve after the MBA. And if we've got clarity and if you meet the minimum requirements, then you would start your application. The application process as well is quite straightforward. There are some essays you have to complete. There are some recommendation letters that you would have to send to some referees, but there's a set template that you use, so which reduces the workload on your references as well. So So it's quite straightforward. And after that, after you've submitted your application, then your application is assessed by another team to see whether you make it to the interview stage or not. And if you do make it to the interview stage, you are then invited to an interview. You have the interview. The interviews are always online. You have it with the academic director, a member of staff, some alumni. It's always changing. And after you're done with that interview, then you will be let know the decision of whether you've made it into the program or not. However, before you find out whether you've made it into the program or not, there is a scholarship committee which sits and assesses your application to see which scholarships you qualify for. So you do not have to individually apply for the said scholarships. You just submit your profile, and based on your profile, the scholarship committee would see which scholarships you qualify for. As you can see, we've got quite a number of scholarships available. The early bird scholarship is for people who apply quite early in the process. There's scholarships for entrepreneurs, diversity, future women leaders, for Europeans, new business trends, and there are some scholarships which are very specific for specific countries. There's a scholarship for South Africans looking to come and do their masters in France. It is powered by Campus France, so I'd advise you to go to that website. There's a similar scholarship for Americans looking to do their masters in France. It is also powered by the Campus France, so I would advise you to check that website as well. So these are our internal funding options, and there are always external funding options like Prodigy Finance, which gives loans to students, MBA students who are looking to study. And there are some country-specific scholarships, which I would really advise you to look into, investigate, and see whether they could be right for you. But do not ever hesitate to reach out to a recruiter like me. We're always happy to talk to you, to guide you throughout the entire application process. Yeah. Questions. So we've received quite a few questions so far. Thank you guys so much for the questions. I'm just going to read them out to you. Some I'm going to address to you, Alejandro and Carissa, and some I'm going to answer myself as a recruiter and as an alumni. All right. Okay. So for this is for both of you. This is for both of you. The question says, did the knowledge of French ever pose a challenge in your job search? The fact that you were not fluent in French. Ali and Carissa, Ali, do you want to go first? Did the fact that you were not fluent in French pose a problem in your job search?
Let's say that you close some doors by not having the French for some positions. That's the truth, because some positions requires, in my case, which I'm a commercial guy, so they require you to speak with French clients or French prospects. But on the other hand, we know that France is quite investing in the startup world. So since 2017, there has been like a record series of fundraising. So the startup and the tech industry in general in France is quite growing for the past years. And I have been able to see by myself, so I'm a witness that it is possible to get jobs in France, even if you don't speak French. Why? Because there are some positions that require you to work on the British market or in the Spanish-speaking market, in my case, or in some other markets, because companies are expanding so fast that they need different kind of profiles. So I would say it is possible, especially in some industries. And yeah, I'll let Carissa give reference.
Similar to Ale, I definitely think that if you don't speak French, it will close some doors because there are some roles that require a working level of French. But it's like we said, I think it's not impossible to find a role that is primarily English speaking, though I will say that even like me in my current role, I work primarily in English, though I work with French colleagues. So it's also important for like break time and like social gatherings and just getting to build relationships with colleagues to try and learn the language. They really appreciate, even if my accent is horrible and my vocabulary is not very great, but people really appreciate you making the effort.
Yeah, that is very true. What both of you said, I concur. And something that must be noted is that as part of your MBA studies, you also have an option to actually learn French. So French is offered as a subject that you can learn. So you can come with the basics and build on that, or you can come with nothing and build on that. And also something else that must be noted is that when you graduate with the MBA, it's not to say that you'll just get a job in France. You can find jobs in Luxembourg. That's another reason why there are these international study trips. You can find jobs in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Luxembourg, in so many other African, European, American countries. It's a global MBA after all, and the majority of candidates after the MBA are actually looking all over the world. So even if you can't find a job in France, don't beat yourself up about it. You'll gain some very valuable skills that you can certainly employ in other parts of the world. So another question that has come up, and I will answer this one myself, is what was the GMAT score range for the last batch? Okay, the GMAT score range for the last batch was around 650. This is not to say that, you know, if you got below that, you couldn't get in. Like I mentioned before, the GMAT is just one of the requirements that we look at. We look at you as a whole package because you are more than just the GMAT. And then there's another question that says, would I qualify for the strategy and digital leadership program if I am 36 with around 10 years of full-time working experience when I join? May you please contact me directly regarding this so we can discuss further. It depends. It's on a case-by-case basis because we do have other MBA programs as well that might be best for you, but perhaps this one could be the right one for you. But you and I are going to chat offline. And then there's a question, this one is for you, Ali. It's for both of us, what kinds of career positions can you expect with the strategy and digital leadership program? So before I let Ali answer, wow, the strategy and digital leadership program to me opens up a lot of doors. It opens up almost any door because an MBA, a candidate with an MBA can work anywhere. I mean, doctors need to have MBAs because hospitals need to be run. Consultants, of course, everyone always thinks consultants. Art gallery managers need to have MBAs. General managers, you can go into marketing with an MBA. I mean, the list is quite endless, right? Ali, do you just want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, very aligned with what you just said, and something that I'd like to highlight is the ESSEC alumni network is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's over 50K people all around the world. So if you're able to determine what, of course, if you have some industry in mind, it will be interesting to maybe ask the school if they can put you in contact with professionals in this industry so you can get insights. I learned from SEC a lot that approaching somebody with the purpose of developing or just answering some questions to your professional path, it's something that you'll be surprised how many people is open to have conversations with you, because most of them understand that they were in the same position as you before. So it'll be also interesting to understand what industry are you most interested in. In my case, I knew I wanted to do e-commerce marketplaces, so I was personally very interested in the digital marketing class with Peter O'Connor. So that's my case personally, but yeah, you can do strategy, you can do also a lot of consulting opens you a lot of opportunities. So if you're interested in consulting, okay, what are the consulting companies asking you for? Is it business cases? Is it some specific skills? So you decide, like very much what Carissa said, like this, the MBA is going to give you the boat. You decide how fast or how do you want to use it.
Thank you. And I've got a question here for both of you. It says, can you give us an idea of what is a typical week in the program? Guys, can you speak from your own experience? What was a typical week? Carissa, you want to go first?
Sure, a typical week. So from what I recall, we had classes 4 days a week. And it was normally around from 9 to 4. And then some days it was from, we had classes all the way to 7 as well, 7:30, I believe. And then if you took the French elective, then you had classes 5 days a week. So I took French. I elected to take the French in the first semester. So I had classes 5 days a week. But normally the MBA was structured to give you 1 day off to handle all the coursework that we had to do, because you were in class from the whole day. Then you would come back to wherever I was living in the dorm, but you'd go back to wherever you were, do all your work as well, and then meet with your group online for there's a lot of group work, a lot of group work. I cannot stress that enough. There's a lot of group work, and it's a lot of dealing with different profiles, different personalities, different backgrounds, and making that work. Ale, I don't know if you want to jump in of what the typical week was like.
Yeah, in my case, it was still 5 days a week of class. So from 9 to 4, then most of the time you'll have assignments or things to work on after class. So on top of that, there were a lot of workshops or private talks with alumni, professionals, which they were all super interesting, but let's say that already adds something else to the agenda. So if you haven't developed time management skills, this is going to be the time, or it's going to get very tough. But
yeah, that's so true. I have to say, I really loved all the talks that we had with all the different alumni and the different speakers. For me, that was one of the highlights, because it was so interesting to see people who'd taken the program and where they had gone. But it's true that they were normally positioned at around 7:30 at night, like 7, at least ours were. And so you had class the whole day, and then you had like a short break and then a talk, if I remember correctly, at least ours, for luxury brand management.
Yeah.
And not only from what you can learn from the talk, but just this happened to me just a few weeks ago. I met this ESSEC alumni in one of these talks, and recently he reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And, "Well, good." And he said, "Like, I'll go straight to the point. Do you want to be in my team?" So he offered me a job position just like that. I mean, he knows that I've been doing for the past 2 years in the same industry, same kind of position. So he kind of knows my profile, but this is the kind of opportunities that you don't go to those talks thinking like, okay, this might at some point lead to some job offer, but it happens, and it's super interesting.
Yeah, this is really true, because when I was graduating from the program, so I had I can say that one of the job offers that I eventually did like turn down, because I pursued my current role, was a connection I made through our field trip to the Netherlands, basically. So I was actually choosing, should I work in France or the Netherlands? But it's true, you build all these connections from the different opportunities that ESSEC gives us.
Yeah, very true. It's not just the academics, it's the people you meet along the way as well, that make your MBA journey so enriching during the year and afterwards as well. And then one of our last questions, because we're going to start to wind down now. Carissa, the question is for you. The question goes as so. Carissa, you already had experience in a field already associated with luxury.
Mm-hmm.
I am from engineering and I would like to make the transition. Do you think I'm going to struggle?
Do I think you're going to struggle? I think that it's definitely possible to make the switch. Like, for example, the person I often cite was my mentor. I mentioned that my mentor was a graduate of the program, and prior to making the switch to luxury, she was an investment banker. So she made the switch to becoming to working in the luxury industry. And so there might be there might be things that might like in any chain, when you move into any industry, there might be things that maybe you need to catch up on like really fast. But I think it's a definite possibility. But yes, the MBA will really help provide the foundations
Yeah.
that you can use to bridge the gap when you
Okay.
make a switch from an industry to another one.
Yeah, yeah. What I found with the MBA is that it helps you make a transition It helps you
Yeah.
make a transition to whatever else
Yep.
you want to do. And like I mentioned before, we've got the dedicated career center that students should and do use from the very get-go. They help you with your CV, they hold your hand with a cover letter, because there are some nuances that you may not get when you're moving industries, when you're moving job positions.
Yep.
And by using the career center, by using the ESSEC alumni, by by just being resourceful, you can absolutely make the switch. And this is one of the reasons why people do the MBA. And then there's one that says, can you share your experience about internship opportunities in France? So Alejandro, Carissa, and I did the MBA during a pandemic year, which was very interesting. People in our cohorts also did have internships. Some did their internships overseas, but all of the internships were actually online during that time. Now, from the cohort that just graduated last year, I know of a participant who had 4 internship offers. So it's quite easy to get an internship offer after after your academic studies. And if you don't want that internship offer as well, you can always do the capstone or the consulting mission that Carissa and I did. I was just answering one of the questions as well. And then another question was, can you share more about the accommodation and how is life? Carissa, you lived in one of the dorms. Which one was it?
I lived in Laporte. I think Ale as well, no? Ale, you lived in the dorms for a minute?
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
okay.
both- Yeah.
Oh, okay. I lived outside because I'm a mom with 2 kids, right? So I didn't live in the dorms. And I know that some people shared houses, shared apartments in Paris.
Mhm.
Yes.
Some people had what you call this, like the room, like you get like a small flat. But how was your experience living in the dorms?
I think it was a good landing. So I think it was a good landing place for me because coming from a different country, moving to a new one, it was good to have sort of like a built-in community. It was also helpful during the pandemic when lockdown happened, but then I had classmates who were living in the dorms as well. So we had like our own sort of social gathering because it can be a bit isolating when you're alone by yourself in a new country and then it's like lockdown. Though I will say though that since I've understood that we were one of the last batches to have the MBA in the Sergi campus. And so now
That is
everything's
true.
moved to La Défense.
That everything is
So
moved to La Défense, yes.
I think moving forward, the candidates will, you know, have a lot more to do in Paris, living in Paris and in Sergi, the quiet little town that it is. And finding accommodation in Paris, I mean, it can be, I mean, it's a city where it's a little bit challenging to find accommodation. Let's be real, but it's not impossible, especially because Paris welcomes international students every year. So there's like a
Yeah.
ton of them that come in. So it's not
Yeah.
impossible.
And I think the challenge is just like any major city. I mean,
Mhm.
every major city, you're not gonna just walk out and find
Mhm.
accommodation. You
Yep.
have to look and apply, and yeah, and people will find accommodation. Now, this is our very last question because we are starting to run out of time. Ali, would you like to share your interview experience at ESSEC? How was your interview experience? How did it go for you?
Well, I remember it was at midnight because I was in the west side of Mexico, so there was a 9-hour difference. I remember being interviewed by the program director at that time, and I think it was very straightforward. I really appreciated how they wanted to really see if I was personally a fit to the program, because the last thing you want to do is like not being in a place where you don't fit that much. So I think they really made a good job by finding out who I am, and once I was able to share this look, this is what I'm looking for, this is who I am, and they realized that okay, you might be a good fit. So that's how I got the offer. But yeah, I think the interview was very smooth and was more like a conversation rather than a job interview or like a really hard question answer interview. So I really appreciated the process, the whole process. It was really smooth.
Perfect. I had a similar experience. Carissa, was yours any different?
Seems fairly similar, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
It was with the program director as well, and they really just wanted to ask about my work experience, ask how I wanted to take the MBA, what were my plans after. Just
Yeah.
trying to get a feel for, I guess, would I be a fit for the curriculum and the program?
Yeah. The plan is not to trick you or to make you stumble. It's just to understand you better as a candidate and whether this program is the right one for you, whether it's the right fit, you know. Yeah, having said that, thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Carissa. And thank you to Audrey, who was working in the background, who was working very hard and curating all the questions. Thank you for all of you who tuned in. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me, to reach out through the website. Some of you may have my personal email address as well. Do not hesitate to reach out and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I look forward to seeing you soon on campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, ciao.